No one at your funeral is going to be talking about your revenue. They're going to be talking about how you made other people feel, ultimately what you were able to accomplish here in life. You're on a device where you only see, and it feels like everybody is always up. That's super dangerous.
The Bible says to whom much is given, much is required. You're not done. It's a blessing to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
You have a 4% chance of escaping poverty if you were born in the zip codes that my business has.
Wow.
Said differently, you have a 96% chance if you were born into poverty to die in it. I have a responsibility because of not just where I'm from, but where our business is located. I can't just know that information and do nothing with it, making sure that something is happening so that there was a reason, there was an impact that our business had. It was planted where it is for a reason. We're asking the wrong question. It's not about your exit. It's about what are you going to do now that you have. The titles that we have, CEO, co-founder, at some point is not going to mean anything, but my kids' father, that's gotta mean a lot. I'm Ryan Wilson, CEO and co-founder of The Gathering Spot, and I was today's guest on the Bless Code.
It's time for something that's just for us. It's time to unlock something new. I'm your host, Melvin Rodriguez, and you're tuned in to the Bless Code. Fellas, welcome back to the Bless Code. Today we're sitting with a man who didn't just build a business. He built a movement for creativity, a movement for entrepreneurship, a movement for Black professionals to finally have a place where collaboration, culture, and opportunity live under the same roof. Welcome, Ryan Wilson. Brother, listen, I've recently learned of your story, but I want to start out and say this, man. I'm proud of you, brother.
I appreciate you.
I'm proud of you for your courage, your tenacity, your will, your determination, your authenticity, and being impactful in a positive, favorable way for our communities.
I appreciate you. I received it. Thank you.
And the reality is, man, is that I'm on a mission to help us see. And I need brothers like you to help me, to help us see, so that we can normalize these things of what I call wealth creation that translates to not just our kids, but our kids' kids and generations to come to experience the blessings of inheritance, yeah. Right? So I salute you, man, and I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing because I believe the best is yet to come. Now, you plan to be a lawyer.
That was the plan.
I was learning of the story. I'm like, you a lawyer and you're in this, it's a similar motto that's kind of, and you have some differentiation as far as the Soho thing, but it's kind of, you have some similarities.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what was the moment you realized your purpose wasn't practicing law?
Look, it's funny where life takes you. So I really planned to be an attorney. I went to school in DC on purpose. I went to Georgetown. I stayed at Georgetown to go to law school. Mm-hmm. Where life really changed for me was between my first year of law school and my second. I was working at a law firm.
And this was at Georgia?
So I went back to, I'm from Atlanta. So I went back home that summer. And it was the same summer that George Zimmerman was on trial for Trayvon Martin's murder. And so I'm watching that trial while I'm at my first legal job. Mm. And to make a long story short, I've been doing some community work in DC. And so when George Zimmerman was acquitted of Trayvon Martin's murder, I got an email that simply said, what are we going to do? And I responded back to that question with, we need a physical place to have this conversation. I've been in and out of a lot of these city clubs and country clubs, but I don't understand why we don't have a place for us to be able to meet. The next day, I sent that paragraph to one of my college roommates who had graduated from the business school at Georgetown. I was like, look, I have an idea for a business. Can you help me build a model around it? And
he brought it to you, the idea.
No, so I brought the idea to him.
Okay.
And then I needed to make it a business though. I had the concept for what the space should be, but I wasn't in any way, shape, or form prepared to like build the business model, make the numbers work. Mm-hmm. And we started working every day. From that moment on, I called my parents. I told them that my parents are entrepreneurs, right? So I did have that benefit. But I called them and was like, look, I think I have a concept that I can't shake. they were like, look, you better graduate from law school. So I did. I graduated from law school in 2015, but the next day I moved back home to Atlanta, and I have been building the company ever since. So
Wow.
it's been right at 10 years
Wow.
that we've been doing this, and this has been the only job I've ever had.
Let me ask you this. So in terms of the vision that you had 10 years ago, how did that vision fundamentally differentiate from what was happening in your space?
Yeah, so the thing that I knew when we started, right, is I wanted a physical place where my community could come together. And I didn't really know what that space should have, right? And to this day, I talk to our teams about this all the time. My why for doing the work is way more important than what we do.
And what is the why?
Why is all about making sure that people have a place where they both socially and professionally can connect. Mm-hmm. I know that like sounds fundamental, right? But if you think about what happens after high school, after college, those are the last places where you're in a community where people are studying different things and talking about different things, where thought leadership is being brought to you on a regular basis, where you have space, right? You can do whatever you want to do on campus. Mm-hmm. We enter the big bad world, and right after that, there's none of those elements exist. Right? In my context, I was only around a bunch of lawyers, which, no disrespect there, right? But like, I wanted to be around the artists. I wanted to be around the small business owners. I wanted to be around people who were thinking about other things than me. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the idea of making progress, I wanted to be in a place where if I was bothered by something, it's the old barbershop model, right? Something's going on in the community. Right. Where do you go? You can go to the barbershop. Right. I wanted to have a modern day version where we weren't going to be cutting hair, right? But we were going to be able to deep dive into whatever we were passionate about. I graduated from law school, right? So I had the idea during my first year of law school. I still did 2 more years and graduated, right? So if you're in a season where you feel like you need to transition, know that you don't have to abandon the current thing that you're doing in order to make that new thing a reality. I also will say, though, that there are lessons to be learned everywhere that you are. I don't practice law every single day, but having a law degree has certainly been helpful, and not just for the legal issues that we tackle as a business, but just it's been helpful from a mindset perspective, and I'm glad that I did it. So look at anything that you're doing as preparation for the next thing that you're going to be doing, and not that it's a mistake, but ultimately trust your gut. You want to do the other thing, do the other thing.
So now, the gathering spot. So I want to learn more, and I want our viewers to understand tap more into your vision and the thought behind the naming, the gathering spot.
Yeah, so, okay, it's important for me to say, you'll hear me talk a lot about the community because that's what I care about. Mm-hmm. What every gathering spot has is 3 things. We have event space. So my belief is that we connect by having experiences together. So we have space to do that. We also have restaurant and bar space. People connect while dining. And then we have workspace, right? Because people connect while they're getting work done. So those are the 3 elements that we put together. The thing that connects everyone, though, is being a part of a membership club. So that's our model. That's what we do every single day. You join as a member of the community. You can attend the experiences that we host. You can dine there, or you can work at the club. The name, though, look, we were doing a ton of research, and traditionally country clubs and city clubs would have these big grandiose names, normally would have like the city or the state, the Georgian club, right? And I wanted something that felt more accessible. It felt like where I was in that time of my life. I was 22, 23 years old when we started this journey. So we didn't know what to call it, right? We would, in conversation, always say, well, the spot should have this, the spot should have that. And then there was truly a day where it was like, look, we've got to have a name. And I think it was my business partner, TK, we was like, well, we should just put gathering in it because people will get what it's about. Mm. And we haven't changed since then.
Wow, that is, as I think about gathering and I tie it back to scripture, and it's I gather where there's 2 or 3 that I gathered, 2 or 3 that I gather, and now we've created this. We've extended upon that the gathering spot where this is the spot where we build, we fellowship. The culture, community, and it's a safe space where great, unique experiences are created. Right? It's what I'm hearing.
Absolutely, and I think that we should not take for granted just how important gathering is. I say this.
And why do you say that?
Partly, I mean, I'm the grandson of AME preachers, but the tradition of being together in community, that's where all the work gets done. When we actually sit down and talk to one another. We live in a world where everybody's so fascinated with the digital ways to connect, and we should continue to do that, right? Those are amazing tools, but the work has always been done, at least in the tradition that I know. People look at each other when they build relationships, and it might not be today's conversation that is the game changer, right? But over time, when you do life with people,
right,
eventually, folks, when you see a project happen and you ask folks like, how did you get to that place? They'll be like, well, we met 15 years ago, and they'll say what was normally a gathering, right, where they were able to connect. I also will say this: in a lot of the cities, especially in Georgia, it was illegal for Black folks specifically to gather in any meaningful number, right? In a lot of jurisdictions in Georgia, if it was more than 2 or 3 Black folks, that was not allowed, right? So when I walk into TGS and see hundreds of Black people in community with one another, that to me is such a powerful thing to be able to do and facilitate on a regular basis.
So let me ask you something. So what's interesting about what you just articulated is the idea to where, and I don't know how you guys study this, but when you talk about the gathering, it's like to me, it seems like the battle of the in-person dialogue versus people who are struggling to battle with their phones, right? The social media, because for so many people, they're gathering with Instagram, they're gathering with TikTok, they're gathering with the algorithms that does not encourage them to want to gather in person. You get what I'm saying?
I totally get what you're saying. And I think that that's honestly one of the sad things about this moment. Look, I'm not against, I use all of those tools too, but I see them as tools, right? I can watch and keep up with everything that you're doing using my phone, but that isn't a relationship, right? Like, we're not going to get anything done by me purely just looking at what you do. We've got to sit down together. We've got to break bread. We've got to talk about family. We've got to talk about business. We've got to talk about values. And through that, that's where opportunities come. So that is what we're trying to do at TGS every single day. I'm not in the restaurant business or in the workspace business or in the event business. We do those things, but the success stories for me come when people are like, I met my business partner at TGS. I met my investor at TGS. I met a customer at TGS. I met a friend at TGS, right? Like, at this point, I can go from people legitimately that have started and scaled their businesses to people who have met their life partner and they're TGS kids out there now. The gathering spot is a community, right? It is a movement. It's us being deeply committed to building relationships with one another. Now, it is also a physical space. It has event space, a restaurant, bar, and workspace, but it is a safe place for people to be able to come and connect. I don't believe that we have enough places to do that work intentionally. So what we do at TGS every single day is give people an excuse to meet their neighbor and to engage with them. Over time, what happens when you see a bunch of interactions, a bunch of relationships happen, are really powerful things.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a wild, it's humbling.
So let me ask you this. So in every business venture, as we think about creating a thesis, and I call it, being the problem solver, or being the solution to their issues or what have you, what would you say the gathering spot is, or has become the answer to, or essentially solving?
So 2 things. The first thing is that use the term safe space. There are not a lot of places where people can go and all of who you are as a professional, or all of who you are socially, that those things are not only just protected, they're honored, right? There's a big difference between being celebrated in a space and being tolerated in one. And our goal every single day is to make sure that celebration.
And how do you make them feel celebrated?
It's in the music that's playing. It's in the food that's served. It's in the people that greet you at the door. It's in the experiences that we host, right? When you see yourself in the experience, look, a lot of country clubs and city clubs, we can join, but they're not thinking about neither you or I when they're thinking about who's going to be in this space. And like, that is what it is, right? But what I'm trying to signal when you walk in is that this is a place that feels like home. I'll also tell you that, look, there's a lot of research on this. We live in the loneliest time in recorded history. So we're more connected than ever, but folks report being disproportionately more lonely than ever. Look, at the end of the day, I think that gathering together, being in relationship with one another, like being committed to there being a context to really get to know people, that isn't a new concept. It's one of the oldest ones that's out there. So I don't think that we're about to do anything different moving forward, but I do think, though, that we're going to need to be more intentional about it. It's easy to get trapped in a world where you just end up feeling disconnected. My job, and I hope what everyone is going to join me in trying to do every single day, is being just intentional about talking to real people. Talk to your friends and your family. I think some of the most important questions that you can ask any person that you come across any day is, how are you doing? And actually listening to the answer to that question, and then following that up with, how can I help? If you stay rooted there, you'll be fine.
So is it that we're more connected, but essentially disconnected?
We're super disconnected is what the research actually shows.
So let me ask you this. So with that disconnection, and it leads me to this question. When I think about the culture, the home, or call it support, and do you feel like the gathering spot is getting the community support that it deserves? When you think about scale, when you think about, so okay, let me frame it this way. When you think about who you are and your purpose that you understand and what you are intentionally intending to do for the community, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel as though you're getting the support from the community that you deserve based on what you're pouring into?
I mean, I would say so. I'll be honest with you. I don't look at it that way. And how I talk to our team about this specific issue is that we've got to go out and earn people's respect and like earn that relationship with people every single day. We're not entitled to anybody's support. I'd love to have it, right? But we've got to go do something in order to make sure that it's worth spending the money and time with us each and every day. As an entrepreneur, do I want to make sure the business is always growing and we're looking for new opportunities? Sure, right? But like, my challenge is to, again, drive tremendous value so that more people want to do that. We have been blessed, though. If you think about a business that, from a first-time entrepreneur in their, I was going to say mid-20s, really like early 20s when we started, I've raised about $30 million lifetime in terms of growing the company. And we opened the club with 128 members. We have like 15,000 across the country now.
That's awesome.
So
that's amazing.
I'm deeply grateful more than anything else that it didn't have to work out. And there are a lot of good people that have made it possible for us to exist, that even during COVID, like, we grew as a company. Like, the business's name is The Gathering Spot. And I remember I filmed a video to the community and I was like, look, we're all we got. I don't know what this is. You don't know what it is either. But if you stay tied to what we're doing here, the plan at that time was that we had reinvested the dues that the members were paying back to businesses in the community that needed it. What that led to was more people joining the membership. Then we opened in 2021 another location in DC, in 2022 another location in Los Angeles.
And with that same framework, that model.
Same model, right? But like, where the conventional idea was, it's COVID, you can't gather. I truly remember watching the news and an anchor said, "Don't gather." And I was like,
wow.
That's the worst word association. That,
right.
I'm like, please use another word. That's the worst word you could use. But we were able to continue a relationship, a conversation with our community that allowed us to not just like survive that moment, we actually grew through it. So We've had our fair share of stuff.
Wait a second now, because you just touched on something that you spoke words that I'm big on. Because see, in our communities, for the most part, we come from the struggle. What went on in this household, stayed in this household, the struggle, the trials, the tribulations, the lack thereof, trying to make ends meet. And we were taught to survive and not thrive.
Yeah.
Right? And so you just spoke on surviving, but you talked about how you guys were still able to navigate obstacles that put you in position for growth. And I want you to touch on that because so many people struggle with being able to see themselves past the survival in the moment.
Yeah, and I understand why, right? So you have to start there. I completely understand why. When you're dealing with circumstance, and I mean, it's overwhelming, right? And so I understand why a person could wake up and say, I am just trying to figure out how to survive. My approach and my mindset has been, look, what I'm doing right now is not random. I don't feel like this is just something that's not, this is my thing, right? This is I believe that I have to be a good steward of this assignment. And so if I'm being a good steward of this assignment, and I understand that, like, look, we only have a chance, as far as I understand it, to do this life thing one time. All the big, cool, amazing things can't be reserved for everybody else. And my job is just to take the scraps, right? So I look at my business with the same ambition and potential as any other logo that I pass driving in my car every single day. I don't believe that it's only those logos that get a chance to scale, and that, like, I just need to, in business or in life, have the remnants of whatever's left. Now, that's really easy to say, right? But like day in and day out, I challenge myself to not. I had a conversation with my dad early on, and we had gotten a quote back. Remember, I'm 23 at the time, that we were going to need to raise $1 million. And I went to my dad and I was like, Dad, they said $1 million. I don't know how we're going to do that.
Right.
We probably need to scale back the size of the project. My dad was like, look, son, small ideas will keep you small. You have to fight for the best possible version of this idea. So I went back into the design room and we kept designing. We kept trying to build. Got another quote, and it was $2 million at that point. I'm back at the table, like, I didn't know where $1 million was coming from. I certainly don't know where 2 is. Son, small ideas will keep you small. You have to fight for the best possible version of this idea. The first round ended up being a little over $3 million. I'm so grateful that I had a parent in this context that told me that, like, we didn't have to go do the small version of the work. I mean, our first club is 25,000 square feet. Most people would have told you to go open 2,500 square feet and go try it out. So I don't know. I mean, my approach, my mindset has been, again, I'm not just doing this randomly. This isn't just my job. This is the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. And so how do we go do that as best we can? My dad said, small ideas will keep you small. You have to fight for the best possible version of this idea. And I'm super grateful that he said that to me, because look, at the end of the day, you have to fight to protect whatever that thing is that you're super passionate about. And you're going to have people, and sometimes even yourself, convinced that it should just be the small version of whatever it is that you're trying to build. I encourage you, like the way he encouraged me, to be super specific about not settling for that version or that moment. Even don't succumb to that temporary feeling. Fight for the reason why you got started in the first place, which was probably a big vision in order for you to be spending the time on it that you are right now.
What my brother Ryan just articulated, and he spoke so prophetically on, was mindset. Mindset. What many of us as Black men struggle with. Mindset to have the will, the courage, the stewardship, the resilience, that no matter what obstacle I may face in this life, this journey can stop me. We come from nothing. We're still 400 plus years behind, but we still continue to operate and think like we're 400 years behind. What does that mean? We continue to operate and think in our yesterday. We continue to think old ways. And what my brother just articulated, and most importantly, for those of you who are men, black men that are fathers, he articulated what his father, his earthly dad did for him that shaped, that molded his mindset, that has prepared him for where he is in his current. And I want to encourage you as you tune in further to this episode to think about what you're thinking about in this moment. Because if I can get you to change your mind, to change your life, and walk with Christ, what God will do for you in your life, the deposits that he will make into you and your spirit and your life, that will make you the man that God created you to be. And so you understand that I can do all things that I set my mind to. And so, brother, I wanted to build on that because that's something that in our culture, and particularly as men, that we struggle with. And so the Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he in his heart. And I'm thinking these thoughts, I'm thinking less than, I'm thinking all these things, survival, and all these things I'm thinking. But you made something that was very, very pertinent here in terms of the idea of, well, if they were able to do it, they were able to do it, Soul House was able to do it, ZZ's here in Florida. Why can't we create a similar, actually a more better, effective model for our communities? And as a matter of fact, here's what we're going to do above and beyond for our community.
Absolutely.
We're going to take subscription dollars and pour back into our community. Who's doing that? You're doing that. And so you're creating the model, the blueprint for many to follow. Because see, God is seeking servants. And that's an example of serving. Because when you think about serving, what's the greatest reward when we depart at some point? Job well done, thy faithful servant.
Absolutely.
Right? And so when you think about what's the greatest reward that we're seeking for eternity, is that. And so while we have breath on earth, we have to serve and we have to build businesses and models that truly have great intentionality that allows us to serve. That's what we did with Mael. The reason why we built this $1 billion business is because we started with serving.
Absolutely.
We had a model where it was purpose over profit. We were mission led, right? And that's what we're missing in our communities.
Yeah, there's so many things that you just said that I think are important, right? Again, going back to the work that we're doing not being random, that's to me the first mistake, right? People will start on a business and then a lot of times it's folks that are close to you. They'll be like, how's your little business going? You have to immediately reject that type of energy like the first time that you hear it and every time after. It's not your little business. This is the thing that you're supposed to be doing. And again, we more than just hope it gets to scale, we have an expectation that it's going to continue to grow. I think too, sometimes what people mistake is, look, I'm super excited to see when a business gets to, it's amazing to have examples like y'all in the community, being able to watch a story go from ideation to execution. But we all have an expiration date on life, right? And what no one is going to say at your service is, there goes Melvin.
Right.
And then they're going to start to read your P&L about the company.
Right.
They're going to read about a company, they're going to talk about a man that was committed to his family, to his community, that was able to do that through business, was able to employ people, right? And like the impact that will have for many generations to come. So I think sometimes people get lost in the sauce on like what actually matters here. No one at your funeral is going to be talking about your revenue. They're going to be talking about how you made other people feel and ultimately what you were able to accomplish here in life. And I'm trying to stay focused there, right? And again, that doesn't mean that my business should just be some small thing, but I want to grow it because I'm passionate about like why we do this every single day. I don't wake up any morning trying to figure out how to just be in business for the sake of it.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's a lot of ways. I have a law degree, right? If this was about just making money, I'm 10 years out. I would be
Right.
I'm sure doing okay at some law firm somewhere if this was just about trying to earn $1. There's a lot of ways to do that. I choose to do the thing that I care about.
Right.
And I hope everyone that's watching this conversation does too.
Yeah.
Right. I'll say this too. You said one other thing that reminded me of, I have through TGS met and had time, been able to spend time with some of the biggest figures of our time. In politics, sports, business, we have been able to bring everybody together. Folks would be surprised about how regular a lot of those people are. And I don't say that to be disrespectful, right? I just say it to say that you have the same opportunity and potential as what they do.
Absolutely. And you know, you're absolutely right, man, because listen, God created all of us as individuals, and particularly men, with unique, extraordinary gifts and talents. And so some of us had been fortunate to where, if you think about in particular in the sports or athletic realm, to where like a LeBron, like a Steph, like a Kobe, you know, they were able to soar and persevere in the space of that, you know, which is fine. But there's still more that they have as it relates to their gifts in terms of what ultimately God will be requiring for them to serve in terms of certain capacities that supersedes playing in the NBA, right? But understanding they had admirations like many of us. I had desires and dreams of becoming an NBA player growing up, right? Because that's what I saw and that's what I looked and defined in terms of what success was, because that was our exposure based in proximity.
Absolutely.
But the reality is, post-career, you still have life. Post-career, God is still going to be wanting you to use what he created you to do in this life, right? And it wasn't just about shooting a jump shot, okay? So the point is that, you know, it's important that we shift the thinking, the mindset, and be open to understanding that, listen, just because I've done this and rise here, I haven't made it. Like, you gotta understand, like, you've done this, but the idea, oh, mama, look, you've made what? We're still 400 years behind. What have we made? I need more Ryan Wilsons in this world.
The whole, like, made it thing for me is, look, again, I've had the benefit of meeting a lot of successful people. Most of those people are still in the game, right? So, like, most folks that people would look at and be like, they've made it, when you talk to them, are still trying to figure out how to reach a new mountain peak, right? And, like, I think once you get comfortable with understanding, like, there's no destination. It really, as cliche as it sounds, it really is about the journey, right? And, like, being committed to that, realizing, again, I've not met a single person yet that's not like of a particular age that is like, I'm done. I don't have anything else to do. They will accomplish one goal, at least the folks that do things at a really high level, and walk right back in the room the next day trying to figure out how to make something else
happen. And think about this, and I tell people this, and I do a weekly men's Bible study in addition to this and my other ventures and so on and so forth. But as you talked about, you're never done, because, you know, people ask us all the time, well, Melvin and Monique, you guys have done this and you all should be off in the sunset on a yacht. I said, you can enjoy those things, but you're not done. I said, the Bible says, to whom much is given, much is required. You're not done. And, you know, the idea of embracing, I'll say this, it's a blessing to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because when I'm comfortable being uncomfortable, then God moves me. And he allows me to challenge myself so that I can continue to grow within myself, right? And for example, I in this season I'm in, and I believe right now we're in a season of the spiritual awakening, because there's so many things happening in this, our current, the chaos from politics and all this nonsense happening in this world. But God is doing something unique in this time, and I believe it's a time for us to awaken the mindset in particular. And so I've accepted this challenge. I'm training in the morning. I get up 2 in the morning. I train at 3 o'clock in the morning, and people are like, that's crazy. Why are you doing this? And I say, I get it. It's the unthinkable. It's the unimaginable. impossible, but it's possible until you made it possible. And I get it, but I'm doing it. I'm challenging myself so that God can deposit something in me that I'm not even thinking about, right? And as I do these things that challenge me, God continues to elevate me, because elevation requires separation. So I got to separate from my old ways. So many of us continue to live and operate in our old ways. And the old ways are, well, in my old ways, I made this bag, I did this, so I'm good. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but listen, what are you teaching your children's children, right? You get what I'm saying?
Oh, look, I totally get what you're saying. Look, I got in trouble for saying this one time, but I firmly believe it, especially if you're Black, right? This idea of you've made it to a place where like you truly have no other work to do. I think the numbers don't justify that position at all. So I am fortunate that our business has been successful. I am able to take care of my family. Thank God. I'm grateful that if I look at my immediate family, they're doing great too.
Mm-hmm.
But statistically speaking, right, no matter how well you are doing as a Black person in America, you have poverty in your family.
Facts.
When I show up at Thanksgiving, there is poverty at my table. So again, this idea of just being able to be like, well, no, I've done it, we've accomplished it. Like how? Right? Even within your own family, you haven't accomplished it, right? And I don't think that we are blessed to be successful in business so that 2 or 3 other people are the only beneficiaries of that success.
Right.
I think we're blessed to try to do as much as we can to impact as many people as we can, both the people that have the opportunity to work at these companies, but then also our families.
Yeah.
And there's a long way to go.
Yeah.
No. Like the math shows that. I forget my opinion about this, but like I live in a city that has, I live in Atlanta, I'm from Atlanta. We have the worst income inequality, the biggest gap between the haves and the have-nots in the entire country.
Mm.
There's no other city that's worse.
Why do you think that's the case?
I mean, historically, right, we didn't get off to a great start, and that history has injected itself to every stage of the city's growth and development, to where, right, there are both of our locations are very close to the west side of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Well, you have a 4% chance of escaping poverty if you were born in the zip codes that my business has.
Wow.
Said differently, you have a 96% chance if you were born into poverty to die in it, right? So again, the idea of me being able to walk around talking about I've made it. I'm in a community right now that mathematically, like we've got to do a lot more to try to make sure that isn't the reality for people that not only look like me, but are me in the sense that like they're immediate friends, immediate family. Unfortunately, the vast majority of people, 96% of the folks that live in the zip code where our first location is, statistically, if they are born into poverty, will die in it. That's a responsibility, right? I can't just know that information and do nothing with it. We have to spend time, 1, amplifying that reality, but then 2, going to work, making sure that something is happening so that there was a reason, there was an impact that our business had. It was planted where it is for a reason. Not doing that to me is being derelict of our duty. And I just refuse if we have the opportunity to do something.
So think about that, and I think you've spoke on this before in terms of the algorithms and the ways of this world or government and things that even with social media and how those algorithms and things we see, it does something to the mind that manipulates us.
Yeah.
Right. How do we combat that?
I think first we have to identify it as what it is. It's a distraction in many ways. But what's making me nervous about the internet are 2 other things. 1, that we have a lot of people on the internet that are projecting just the best moments of their life.
Right.
And so you're watching genuinely the best moments that everyone has. And you are living understanding that like, that isn't what your life is like. Life for everybody is ups and downs, right? But you're on a device where you only see, and it feels like everybody is always up.
Right.
That's super dangerous, right? Because again, that isn't life. Life is Life is the roller coaster. We've got to do a better job, especially for our kids, of telling them that very simple thing. Hey, you're only watching the best, right? Let's give you, in some cases, let's give you the math, right? I mean, everybody online is rich. Everybody online is successful and made it. When you go to people and tell them, hey, do you know that only 7% of Americans make over $100,000 a year? Now go compare that to your algorithm. Does 7% of your algorithm show up like that every single day? People are like, no, 100% of my algorithm is not just making 100K, they're all millionaires. So like, we've got to do a better job of telling folks the truth about what's going on. Second thing quickly is that like, I'm concerned that because there's so much information all the time, we're not having a quality discussion about a lot of really important topics.
Yeah.
Everybody's an expert, right? You got real estate people teaching classes and trying to tell you about industries that they haven't even been in that game for real. So then not only are you distracted and sad by the idea that everyone's doing well, now you also feel like you don't know anything on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
That combination is super dangerous to me. And I do my best online too, to try to have everybody have a little bit of perspective of like, I'm not asking you to settle, but you're doing okay, right? Like you're doing like a lot of people your age are doing. And so let's stay committed to the journey of every single day getting better, but you're not doing disproportionately worse than everybody right now. Like I know it feels that way, but that's not actually the math of what's happening.
Yeah, man, and that ties into the saying that on the gram you may see the glory, but you don't know the story. And it's that, you know, on the gram we put this fictional lifestyle, this image that allows us to be celebrated and applauded by the cheers of the crowd. But what we don't know to be true is that once the criticism comes from the crowd, we fold because we're not being of our authentic selves, right? And so what happens is when the youth sees those that are living these fictional lives being celebrated, they are negatively manipulated by the lies. And I tell my kids, both my wife, we tell our kids is, listen, 98% of what you see on the gram is phony. Absolutely. You better believe it. Because like you articulated, they're going to show the glitz, the glam, but they're not going to really give you what they're going through. They're not going to really give you the struggle and all those things, right? So you got to be very cautious and have great discernment on what you see so it does not confuse you.
You will spend a lot of your life, unfortunately, probably pretty sad if you believe everything that is being. It's at this point, it's gone beyond even what I said about the highlights and only being the positive moments. There are people going out of their way to con folks. I don't know a better word to use, into lives that they're not living at all, right? So it's not even just seeing like the good moments anymore. It's seeing moments that don't actually really even exist, right? In reality. And look, I'm my kids are young, right? I've got a 5 and a 3-year-old.
Oh man, you got babies, man.
Yeah, but I'm concerned, right? They're not on the internet. They're too young for all that. But I'm looking ahead.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've got to do my best in these years, to your point of having them have confidence that when they start to get exposed to all of this other stuff, that they know who they are and they know that like that stuff is not the reality of what's going on.
Yeah, no, you're right, man. You know, and that you know, ultimately as entrepreneurs, what I'll say is it begins to create a sense of pressure for Black entrepreneurs to lead, to inspire, to motivate. And it's a pressure that we carry because we're leading, right? We're leading a flock of individuals, our team members, our community, like leading. And I want to ask you, how do you, or have you and your partner TK, how have you guys navigated those pressures?
I try to talk about
because they say pressure bursts pipes.
Yeah, and it will, right, if you aren't sure about what you're doing. I try to be radically transparent with our community and our team at every step in the journey. I think that is my responsibility as an entrepreneur, to be honest about how I'm feeling, why I'm feeling it, and like explain from there what happened, or like what we want to do next. I think when you don't do that, you start to run into challenges that are a lot of times bigger than what people are prepared. That's when the pipes start to burst. When you're not in communication with people. But look, we're in a really interesting moment.
Yeah.
Folks, especially online, are vicious. Like they are incredibly unkind, right? And it doesn't take much, right? I mean,
to go viral.
It for sometimes where you're not even. It's like, wait, hold on, that's a good thing. Why would we be talking about that in a way that's negative, especially in the business context? I've gotten in trouble for talking about this in the past too, but it's always been interesting to me when you see a funding round announced that people will be in the captions clapping. Now, those of us in business know that like that wasn't charity, right? That was a business preparing for growth and most likely, hopefully, a liquidity event. That's what the business is trying to scale. The business gets to that moment. It gets to the Super Bowl of business, right? And wins the championship. You go back in the comments and everyone's sad. It's like, well, wait. We knew when that company was going through the draft process that player was going to try to have the best career possible and was going to try to go to the Super Bowl and win it. We should applaud that moment, not be sad that they won, right? I mean, like that. So again, I see part of our responsibility of trying to talk about this in a way that's authentic, and so that people really know like what they're witnessing is not a bad thing, right?
So yeah, man, you're I'm just laughing at you, man, because you're preaching so quiet here. I understand, both my wife and I understand and know it all too well myself, my wife, personal dentist, and what we, just us, three in our families as a collective have done in our space, that outside of us has never ever been done at our scale.
Yeah.
Historically.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. And so it's almost like you have a silent contract with the Black community, and it's that I support you at your humble beginnings. I support you when you're at growth stage. I don't necessarily support you at scale, because when you're scaling, you now have the potential to win the Super Bowl, and now I put you in a category or frame you as a sellout, and we don't understand that it's not selling out. It's actually you're selling up, and the idea in terms of how do we create things of wealth that creates inheritance of things that we've never had within our Black communities. How do we create that if we don't strive to get to the Super Bowl, right? But here's the thing. We understand the thinking, because of the generational trauma, the systemic strategies that have been put in place that have taught us to live in poverty, that have taught us to live in lack, that have taught us to not understand, that have taught us to not support. We understand. But you talked about something very important earlier, mindset. And one of the reasons why I'm doing this show, The Blessed Code, because I believe we all are blessed. Every single day, this is the day the Lord has made. I'm glad, I'm rejoicing in this day, the Blessed Code. I'm living under His code, His grace, His mercy, the code. And my mindset, I'm asking God to find ways to help me to be transform me by the renewal of my mind. When I see a conversation like this, the gathering code, and what you've been able to accomplish in such a short duration of time, I'm inspired and led. And for those who may see this, allow us to be a sense of inspiration and not to find ways to tear down what God has anointed and appointed so that it can benefit us. But I understand.
Look, I understand too. There have been terrible things that have happened to a lot of our companies we've fallen in love with products, and those things have changed. I'm not trying to dismiss any of that, right? But at the end of the day, I think the community is asking the wrong question. It's not about this individual business. I mean, again, I appreciate that we fall in love and care about these companies, right? But the longer term project isn't about one particular brand, right? The question that we need to be asking everyone involved is, what are you going to do next? Now that you have had the opportunity to win the Super Bowl with this business, are you going to provide an opportunity to have meaningful conversations about what you've learned? Are you going to invest in businesses? Are you going to talk about it's the wrong question is being asked too often. And again, I'm not trying to dismiss any of the concerns that rightfully are there, but I'm super excited to know that you and your family were able to build a mega brand, right? But I'm more excited to see what happens now that you're in a position to go and amplify that impact even further.
That right there is part of the ultimate goal.
The reality is that the vast majority of our companies do not employ anyone. And I don't say that as a point of criticism. I say it as really a point of opportunity. We have to talk about where we are to talk about where we're going. And where we're going is as a place where more businesses in our community will be able to employ more people. There are a lot of good things that happen when that happens. So I encourage if anyone, right, that isn't currently an employer firm to get focused on continuing to make the fundamentals of the business better so that you will be. It goes beyond just provide a paycheck, right? Know that when you are able to help to facilitate that, that's real rent, it's real groceries, right? Those are real resources that real families, real people need and are gonna be able to take advantage of. That also, though, will lead to stronger communities, and it will give an opportunity for people that may not have been able to find the work that they're able to do with you anywhere. And that's beautiful.
And so now it's you are blessed with a vision, you work the model, you grow the model, you scale it, you exit. Now what happens? Now I'm able to do what? Do things that I was not able to do yesterday. Do things that my parents, my grandparents, our ancestors, our communities were able to do, right? Deploy capital and invest in us and help us, give us wisdom, give us expertise, so on and so forth, right? And also, as I think about normalizing scale businesses, what am I able to do? Tap into the thesis of today's conversation, the gathering code, because now we gather. And we're gathering as it relates to a conversation around wealth and shifting the narrative. For example, I was just in a room a couple of days ago in DC at this event, Goldman Sachs event. And it was called the Family Founders Wealth Summit. I was angry for a moment because I'm the only one there.
Absolutely.
And it's like, it's hard to explain to us if you're not in that moment, if you're not seeing what I'm seeing. Yeah. And I'm sitting here like, we gotta gather. We gotta.
That ain't a big gathering.
You understand?
But see, the reality of the situation is that, like, if you were to host that gathering, that actually isn't a big gathering, and that's the problem, right? There's not a lot of people that you can call for any sort of meaningful conversation about what it's like to build a really big company, right? At my size, I don't have a ton of people that I can call and talk about that process. Look, I said earlier about Atlanta having the largest income inequality gap in the country. I think what I hope folks see in that is that there has to be a wealth transfer, right? Or we have to grow the pie. One of those two things has to happen so that more folks in our community have access to the resources that they need. Well, there's only two ways to make money in America. You have to invest in something or you have to start something.
That's it.
There's only two paths.
That's it.
So y'all took...
And notice you didn't say, and there's no shade to the ordinary workers, and that's fine, but you didn't touch on the 9 to 5. You said either you're gonna invest in something or you're gonna grow something.
There's a pathway through a company to have that be the invest piece. If you're working at a company and you're getting stock options and you're able to continue, but you have to be invested in making sure that wealth is being built. But the other way, and the way that we have seen in this country that gets to, frankly, larger amounts of capital most times, is that you have to start something, right? And that's not everybody's journey. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it is, but if we generally agree, right, that fact is true, then examples like yours, again, we're asking the wrong question. It's not about your exit. It's about what are you going to do now that you have, right? Like, and where we should be upset is if we don't see you doing any of those things that would be beneficial to the community.
Exactly.
The exit itself, congratulations. I'm excited for you. I hope that all of that time, effort, and energy paid off, and y'all are happy about the outcome. Assuming that that's true, now what happens? And again, we don't have that part.
The real work begins, and
yeah,
and that's important, man. As we think about redirecting the conversations, and one thing I want to ask you is, we think, we're in the fourth quarter and getting ready for 2026, and what do you think the environment for Black investors in particular will look like next year?
I hate to say it, I'm an optimist, right? I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not overly optimistic about what we're about to see moving forward, because the folks in our community that have money, it's very interesting when you start talking about companies needing to go raise capital. It's like the same 10 names everybody will say.
Right.
Well, have you talked to Oprah? What about Tyler Perry?
Right.
And it's like, look, Oprah, Tyler Perry, and Robert Smith can't fund everything that we need. Like, unfortunately, that room is small.
Yeah.
And relatively speaking to the capital need that's out there, even that group doesn't have the resources to fund all of what we need funded.
Yeah.
I gotta say this one other thing too, because I think it's I hope a reflection that people will have. When a company, by definition, your company, gets to become the largest company in a category, right? Unfortunately, there aren't options there. By definition, you are the largest company in a category. Mm-hmm. So where do big Black companies go? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, you're going to have to go to a company that's larger than what you are. But I just said you're the largest company in your category. You're BET, right? It is only Viacom that can buy you because you're BET. There's nobody bigger than you. So we're in a moment right now from an investment standpoint, getting back to your question, where we are going to have to part ways with full ownership of some of our stuff, because by definition, they are the largest thing in our community that we have. And the only group of available people that we can then go talk to probably doesn't look like us.
Right.
But again, the next question is, what are you going to do with the exit once it occurs? But I'm not optimistic about what we're about to see, because the liquidity isn't there, especially in a tough market. Mm-hmm. So what I'm encouraging every entrepreneur that I come across to be focused on is, how do you get to a customer? I know that funding is it's what's talked about the most, and it's needed in order to make a business a reality in most cases. But if you can get to a customer, the conversation that you're going to have with a potential investor will be stronger. Now,
let me ask you this real quick. So when you think about an aspiring entrepreneur, they see you, they know of your story, and they were asked for your expertise or advice in terms of this new venture or new business idea that they have, even in the tech space, that they're kind of struggling with the idea, but more importantly, what would you encourage them in terms of the faith and the requirements for them to work to see the full manifestations of that vision come to pass?
I'll say one thing that's like super practical, right? The first thing is that you have to understand the fundamentals of that business better than anybody in the world. How does that business make money? How are you going to care for your expenses? You have to understand that model and be the world's subject matter expert on that. From a mindset perspective, though, you've got to be prepared to hear no often. Mm-hmm. So I told you that we raised $3 million of capital. What I didn't tell you is that I received 97 straight no's before the first person said yes.
And that's the but see, that's the so again, they see the glory but don't know the story.
97 straight, we counted them. It was 97 straight, and painful. I've had pages of our deck ripped up. I've had people tell me all sorts of ridiculous reasons why they weren't going to invest. I've heard it all. So if you are in the position of the starting part of a business, know that there are going to be a lot of people that tell you no. Now, the amazing thing in that is that if you are doing something disruptive, again, almost by definition, people should not understand what you're talking about. So if you're getting an immediate yes, as an entrepreneur, you should kind of be concerned about why does everybody understand so quickly what it is and what the vision is, right? Because disruptive stuff should be met with like are you sure that's gonna work? So be prepared for no, right? But know that like, and I say this again with respect, but investors specifically, particularly venture capital, which a lot of times is what people are talking about when they talk about investors. Venture capitalists are it's one of the only jobs where you are paid to be more wrong than you are right.
That's a fact.
It's one of the, like, if you think about it, right? Like, if you are as wrong as a VC is about their work, you would not have your job right now.
Facts.
It's the only place where you're wrong all the time. So if one of those people that's wrong all the time says no to you, well, like, yeah, I mean, they practice no, and they practice being wrong. So don't internalize that, right? Just because they don't get it doesn't mean someone else isn't going to get it. I've had people that have said no that are now members of the club and have invested later, right? Because it just wasn't the right time when I was talking to them.
Facts. That's important,
but it was my journey, it was my business, right? It was my thing, not their thing.
Yeah.
And again, respectfully, you're wrong all the time as an investor, right? So I don't care that you didn't like my thing.
Right.
You don't like a lot of things that go on to be successful.
Absolutely, man. And that speaks to your resilience. That speaks to your will that comes from your mindset. And it's the idea, well, you may tell me no. All right, well, maybe this isn't for me. And
but who are you, right? Like as an entrepreneur, you've got to get to a point of like,
yeah,
look, I know this person has a great resume and they have probably had a great track record of doing other things, but I spend every single moment thinking about, or at least if you're I spend a lot of time thinking about this. You just spent the last 10 seconds. So the idea that like I'm supposed to defer everything that I think about my business,
right,
because you just spent the last 12 and a half seconds thinking about it. Respectfully, like, who are you exactly to tell me that the thing that I'm working on isn't going to be a good idea? Now, look, if you hear that over time, over and over again, and the business doesn't have traction, then you need to start having a conversation with yourself.
Yeah. So,
but who cares about what other people are saying?
But, and so here's what's interesting about that, because what that has done for you, it has strengthened your resilience. It has allowed you to have the mindset, listen, I won't stop for nothing. And, you can tell me no, that's fine, but I'm going to get my yes. And so as I think about that, we think about, call it the next generations, and they looking up to you, myself, and those who have done extraordinary things and what have you. And they have these great creative ideas, and whether it's in tech and venture, whatever it is, right? But what advice would you give them that you wish someone had gave you early on?
Look, I've talked a lot about the fact that I don't feel like this is random, but like there were moments in this where I definitely did. I mean, I spent my childhood wanting to be an attorney. So we had a lot of really challenging moments when we opened. I didn't pay myself anything for the first 2 years, right? My now wife, then fiance / girlfriend, depending on what we're talking about, right, was pitched marrying a lawyer, and then had that same person walk in the room and say, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And by the way, I'm going to be an entrepreneur that doesn't make any money.
Ooh, how'd that work out for you?
We're still married. Thank God. And she's amazing. Like the most gracious person ever for going through that transition. Mm-hmm. So if you're starting right now, you've got to be in the mindset that, look, this is a full contact sport for me. This is what I do. Right, I've had people ask me before, like, what other things are you? This is what I do, right? Like, for this season of my life, I am the world's subject matter expert in all things gathering spot. If you were competing against me, look, you might beat me, but like you're going to actually I'm gonna have to see that score, right? Like I gotta go play the game. I gotta look up at the scoreboard and be like, wow, we lost. Until that moment happens, my attitude is like, don't lace them up against me.
Right.
I'm willing to go to places that you're not willing to go to.
Facts.
And like I'm going to outwork you in this game. And again, I might be wrong, but I'm gonna have to go feel that. Like I'm gonna have to go see it. A lot of entrepreneurs lose the game and they haven't even driven in the parking lot of the arena yet. They're like at home thinking about the game. Like, no, like, I have to, like, we've got to go play.
So, that leads me to one of the things I like to do on the show is just get an understanding of your daily habits or your daily practices, and I like to call it your daily code you live by daily. What is that?
Look, I've talked to you a lot about business. My main responsibility, the most important title to me, is as a father and as a spouse, right? So my day starts really early. I multiple days during the week go to the gym, right? That's like a little bit of me, and then the morning time is reserved for family, right? And make sure that my kids get off to school, and we spend that time with one another. That grounds me in ways that are really, really important. Because again, like, there's a lot of ways to go make $1. So I'm grateful for the work that I get to do every single day. But at this stage of the game for me, you could think I'm a horrible CEO. I really, really don't want, especially my kids, to ever think of me as not being a great dad.
Right.
And I don't want my spouse to think of me as a bad husband.
Right. Wow.
That grounds me more than any of the rest of this stuff.
Wow.
I don't like again, like the titles that we have, CEO, co-founder, all of that at some point is not going to mean anything.
Yeah.
But my kids, like father,
yeah,
that's got to mean a lot, right? So that's my day.
That's amazing, man. And what I would say, brother, I firmly believe that you get it and you're going to keep getting it and continue to gain wisdom so that you can pass that on to others. I think, you know what, man, Brother Ron, I think we've done it. I think we've unlocked the gathering code. Brother, I appreciate you. I thank you, man. I'm so proud of you, man, just hearing you and what you're doing. I wish you nothing the best. And as a matter of fact, those of you who are tuning in, support this brother. I want you all to be there with him because he's on to something extraordinary. Because we need more of Ryan Wilson's in our communities. That's going above and beyond for us, by us. So support us, share this episode, because I think it's important, especially in this season, in this moment, because if we don't support us, who will? So brother, I thank you for joining me on the show, and I wish you nothing but the best.
I appreciate you.
Keep God first and be that family man that you just articulated, man. And keep it going, brother.
I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man. Good job.
Thank you.
Good job, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, sir. All right. Thank you for joining this episode of The Blessed Code. Living by His Code is a journey full of grace, growth, and opportunities to bless others. If today's episode spoke to you, please share this powerful message and don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on social to stay grounded, grateful, and blessed. Until next time, keep your faith strong, your heart open, and live life you're destined for. I'm your host, Melvin Rodriguez, and you just unlocked another blessed code.